But let's get to the Fever versus the Dallas Wings game, because this was a hugely anticipated matchup. It was number 1 overall pick Caitlin Clark versus this year's number 1 overall pick Paige Bueckers in this big matchup. And the Fever ended up winning 103-83. Clark had 14 points, 13 assists, and limited turnovers, which she was really talking about needing to clean up. So It's cool to see her be able to take her game to the next level in that way. Kelsey Mitchell led Indiana with 20 points, and the Fever had 64 first-half points, which is the most by any team scored in a half this season, which is wild. 64 points in one half. I mean, I'm like looking at that, I'm like, that can't be right. I can't have that stat right, but it is true. And even though they lost Paige Bueckers and Isaiah James combined for 51 points and just weren't able to carry the team through to this win. So let's hear from Caitlin Clark after the game why she felt like she didn't need to make too many shots.
I mean, I still probably didn't shoot it as good as I would have liked. But I feel like it's coming. I'm just trying to continue to get my legs under me. And like I said, pregame, like I feel like I'm a couple shots away from like having a really good game. So, but I mean, I thought my playmaking was really good. There was, no reason for me to really shoot that much. I thought, like, you look at the box, like 12 shot attempts, 11, 9, 9, 8, 7, 6, like just very balanced. And, people executed. And when we have, 5 people in double figures, like, I feel like we're going to be pretty hard to beat. Like, it would take a lot for a team to beat us. And I think we were just kind of firing on all cylinders, moving the ball well, getting to the next action, played out a pick and roll well. And then our defense was good and got us a lot of buckets in transition.
I gotta wonder what it's like to be shooting like Caitlin Clark, just throwing up deep threes and being, okay, which one is gonna be the one to set me off? Which one is it gonna be? Because that's how she really feels right now. She's definitely upset that it isn't falling for her, and some people are saying, oh, this is her slump. But she's like, no, it's coming. And maybe if I was even 4 shots different, this would look like a very different situation.
Yeah, well, her talking about limiting shots, too. I mean, every athlete has their thing, right? And you could probably tell me about your experience. I know for me personally, intuition was always a thing. I was very intuitive. Like, I could feel if my body was in sync with what I needed it to do so that I wasn't overthinking everything that was taking place. So, like, sometimes when you overdo it, when you take too many shots, you start screwing with your form. You start screwing with things that naturally just give you that intuitive, this is my go-to, I know how to land it. So right now she's kind of got a little bit of a mental tango to do, but to already have dealt with 2 injuries this season, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, she might be back, but you really have to be honest with the assumption of, like, does she feel 100% like herself? And is that why she can't force certain things or overdo it or just try to do too many shots? Like, I think she just has to get back to what feels right. When it feels right, I think the shots will land.
I love that you said that, because it's got to come naturally for her. And I think for me as an athlete, anytime I felt out of a groove or my shot was too manufactured and it didn't feel natural, I had to go back to doing a million layups just off of transition or in unconventional situations. And I feel like for Caitlin, moments when we've seen her thrive is when she takes a deep 3 in transition. Like, she's almost so unset that she's shooting off of 1 foot. And you're like,
because you don't have time to overthink it.
Totally, 100%. So I love that you bring that up, because I think what we're going to see from Caitlin Clark when she kind of gets out of that slump that some people are calling it, and, compared to other players, definitely not a slump. But for her, probably not one of her best shooting performances that she's had, in obviously the inconsistency. Never really in her college career did she have the serious injuries where she's on and off the court as much as she's been this season. So that definitely plays a factor. And even Stephanie White, head coach of the Fever, has mentioned that to be a factor. But I definitely think, like you said, it's going to come in those more natural situations. But let's hear from Caitlin and what she had to say about how her defensive efforts have actually helped the Fever.
Caitlin, we talked so much about your offense and playmaking and shot making, but defensively, tied your career out with 5 steals tonight. How do you think that first one, though, I think it might have been on Paige, but just coming across court, you get it, and how do you think that set the tone for the rest of the defense throughout the game?
Yeah, well, I knew my team was ready and trapping on the sideline, so kind of just made a read. I saw she was going to throw it to her post player and was able to get my hand on it, and then got a few deflections out of guard-to-guard switches. So I think just being active, like, I can be a really good defender when I choose to, and when I work really hard on it, and not conserve energy. So I'm proud of myself in that regard, and I think that probably motivates our offense. Like, when I bring a tenacity on the defensive end, I think it really helps our offense go. And
I mean, if you had an Aaliyah Boston next to you during your press, I mean, you kind of have an AB next to you already on
I
the
was going to
Spectre
say,
game.
I feel like we gas each other up just
You do
enough.
have it, but I just love her commentary because we show a lot of Caitlin Clip post-game pressers, and I just love Aaliyah Boston when she's not talking. She's such an active listener. Yeah, you
She
did.
is.
Yeah, you did. Like, she gives it to her. So I absolutely love that, but it is so important for Caitlin Clark to not only have the defensive performances, like having steals and just being aggressive that she has, but to know it and to be aware of it, because then she's able to say, hey, maybe I am slacking off, maybe I am conserving energy because I know the impact and the value that I bring to my team offensively. But she knows even if she's not getting a steal, her body language and how she presents herself on defense is elevating her team to know, oh, that's my best player fighting for me defensively. Like, I'm going to go do the same for her on this side of the court.
Oh my gosh, I think it's tremendous. And I love that you mentioned the body language. Funny enough, I think Ante and I kind of talked about this on Hold My Banner. You've got players that have an offensive expectancy about them, right? Like, you need them putting up 20 plus points per game. Sometimes it's not working. When that's not working for them, you're just kind of seeing either a lackluster player or somebody who you can see mentally trying to process or overcome what they're dealing with in that moment versus being like, how else can I help my team? So the fact that she was so unselfish enough to just pivot and say, how else can I help my team? All right, fire off defensively. Not to mention is that she's still firing off in the assist column. Setting up your teammates, and at least it's a motto that a number of girls I played with live by, the setup is almost just as important as the execution, because if you know somebody else has the capability to execute, you get them the ball. You make sure that you're positioning them and your teammates in the most progressive, positive situation possible. So to show up defensively, still be loading up in that assist column, you have somebody who, when they're frustrated with themselves and their performance, they don't just tap out. And it's a very hard thing to do. I don't want to speak for any athlete. You're going through so many different mental hurdles in one moment. You only have this one game to make an impact, because then it's turn the page on to the next. So for her to do that, I think speaks to the leadership. But I think that you can see it, that her teammates know that they can rely on her in that aspect. And not to make this a whole Caitlin Clark inflammation, I think that's kind of the DNA of this entire Fever team. When they're incapable in one aspect, they try to make sure they can help in another one.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about how is she going to get back on rhythm shooting wise.
Yeah.
And for me, when I would play lacrosse in college, I knew, hey, I really want to start out my pregame reps with defense, because for some reason it just ignited some level of like aggression.
Because if you feel like you make a good play,
Definitely.
doesn't matter what the play is. If you feel like you make a good play, it just fires you up.
It loosens you up. Yeah,
Yes.
It fires you up. It loosens you up. And for me, like, then once I had gotten my like defensive effort out of the way, I was like, okay, now I feel good to really focus in on my offense and what the game plan is offensively and even just shooting. So I totally think that that could be a spark for Caitlin Clark in that. But let's hear from head coach Stephanie White on what maintaining the lead after getting it in the second quarter meant to this team.
It was encouraging, certainly, for us to be able to maintain it, to be able to stop some of their runs that they went on. That's encouraging. I think we were outscored in the second half, though. And sometimes it's hard to play with those leads, but those leads are never safe in this league. They just aren't. And so for us, again, our journey is to be able to expand on those leads, right? To be able to continue to keep our foot on the gas, not just kind of being in neutral, right? We want to keep going forward. We want to keep progressing. We want to keep growing in the areas that we need to grow.
What I'm hearing from Coach White is that they're right there. She's like, we are right there. We just need to expand on the lead. We need to stay consistent, and that's what this team really needs to do. And that's just a mentality. Like, they have all the pieces. They know exactly what they need to do. They know how to win. They've also experienced losses very much throughout this season. It's been so up and down for them. So just hearing her say that, I can just feel that, like, tension of, like, we're there, but we're not there, but we know exactly what we need to do.
Yeah, and, like, to know that you have the capability to do better. Like, this is the point of the season and the year where it's like it all matters. Every win matters, and you don't want to feel like it's going to slip from your grasp. You want to feel a little bit more confidence that you have secured it, but they're getting there. Jokingly enough, I think it's not heavily reliant on the Caitlin Clark performance. I think, if anything, her time away from this team in terms of injury, not away, but it's helped everybody else kind of find and solidify their confident identity and their piece in everything. I mean, last year I remember mentioning Kelsey Mitchell's name a number of times because, like, of course we were talking about Caitlin Clark, but it was like, dude, look who else is, like, really stepping up or, like, going off or executing on these passes from Caitlin Clark. And you're seeing it go beyond Mitchell. So now it's not just the Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell show, or even just Aaliyah Boston, like you're seeing a number of women that deserve attention and kind of like, you know, some perks on their name for what's going on. I think that's going to help them be able to string together more consistent wins, but like say this playoff spot does get secured by them, it's going to help them be very competitive. So I think that it's a perfect timing to kind of have this like, all right, let's get all gas here, but they're working out the kinks. Let's say that.
Right. And it takes time, right? Like they had that time, like you're saying, and now it's time.
Yeah.
Like you had time to figure out, okay, we know that Caitlin might not be in the game, but who's going to step up?
Yeah.
And it's not just like on your scouting report before the game. It's a, hey, when we're in these moments and when we can't have a huddle and talk about it, or we don't have pregame to know like, hey, who's going to do what in certain situations, and emotionally lead as well, right? Like that comes with consistency, and when you don't have that, you kind of have to look for it. So we'll see who that will be after this break. But let's get to the other side of the court with Paige Bueckers, because she had a lot to say after the game. So here's her talking about the environment of playing Caitlin Clark in their first professional matchup.
Yeah, it's fun. Anytime we can compete against each other. We're two competitors who just want to win, and who have grown up to be playing against each other, playing with each other. So it's great, and the environment's great here. I feel like every game is a sellout, and so they have a great home court advantage. So overall, yeah, great environment.
Yeah, those two will never escape each other unless they end up on the same team someday in the WNBA. What would that be like? I mean, that would be nuts. People would be losing their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. You're talking about two forces, absolute forces in the WNBA. I mean, Paige Bueckers already.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It would be nuts, and I think people can't even fathom what that would be like. We're like, man, we got enough to cover with Caitlin Clark and the Fever, and then but too, like if they were on the same team, like yes, that would be an incredible star-studded team. But it'd be fun. It's more fun, I would say, to have kind of these characters on each team within the WNBA, a league that is really growing rapidly.
Yeah.
And so it's fun for the media to cover it because it's like, oh, we got this, and then we got this, and the storylines just are more energized in that way. But let's hear from the Dallas Wings head coach, Chris Clanis, on how the Fever's physicality really played a role in the Dallas getting knocked off.
Yeah, I think, again, some turnovers and then just their physicality in general got into us and made our lives hard when we're trying to go set screens, pushing us off our pads to be able to even set and use screens. So I thought their physicality really bothered us in stretches and kind of took away our flow and continuity. But then again, no excuse for not getting back. And I just think we could have had greater effort more consistently in transition.
Yeah, that's tough because you never want physicality to be a reason why you struggle, right? Offensively too, especially knowing that you probably knew this going into the game.
Yes.
So I think that's a tough thing to learn from, but it can happen once. It just definitely cannot happen in the second rematch.
Yeah, a little surprising that ended up being something that threw them off their game because, not to be dramatic, but realistically from a headline standpoint, a lot of the conversations around the Indiana Fever, yes, some of the antics were kind of inflated there, but you're hearing a lot about their physicality or their physical response to situations. So if anything, mentally you would think that they would be like, oh, this is a team that can either physically respond or physically, ramp things up and really bring it to us in that sense. So I am kind of like tossed a little bit that I'm like, oh, you didn't game plan for physicality versus a Fever team that's been in the headlines for, I don't know, physicality. Yeah, so that part was interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, they do have another chance to rebound. This team will play the Fever again on August 1st, so sometime before then,